Welcome to the Parish the Thought Show. The opinions of Brian, your host, and his guests have not been sanitized or scientifically tested, so please consume at your own risk. Now, here's Brian.
Ladies and gentlemen, and whoever else is listening, welcome back to the program. My guest today is Amy Jensen, a faithful member of the LDS Church, wife, mother, and creator of the Instagram account Women on the Stand. This episode is primarily for members of the LDS Church, but has implications in all religions and organizations. So why is this important? In a typical LDS Church meeting, for example, only the bishop and his counselors are seated on the stand behind the pulpit. Anyone visiting that ward or congregation can look up and know who the leaders are. In the Oakland, California stake for the past decade, the women's organization's leaders have been sitting on the stand during ward and stake meetings. Fair and balanced, right? No problem. Well, back in October of 2023, a member of the church's area authority for that region of the country decided having women leaders represented on the stand was a problem and put an end to this practice. This was an absolute slap in the face to the women of the church on so many levels, and it hurt. A lot. You see, there was nothing broken here. This practice was benefiting thousands of people in these Bay Area wards, and yet some leader, not from the area, decided this was just not how things were supposed to be done. Amy began her search for answers at the local level and turned up empty. Letters to the general church officers also seemed to fall on deaf ears, for now. So she has created this community to spread the news and make some change. I am so sorry, ladies, that you've been getting a raw deal for, like, forever, it seems. And I may be a little late to the game, but cannot unsee the imbalance. So I call on my brothers in the church to step up and push for better visibility for our sisters. But thank you again for joining me to talk about this amazing little club you've created called Women on the Stand. And yeah, I was going to try to do some kind of intro, but I want you to tell me the genesis of it.
Okay.
And talk about why you felt so strongly to start doing it, and then how we met and how I came to be on your doorstep at the moment.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear that part of from your point of view too. So when I really think about it, the reason that I started the Instagram account and the reason that I've been public in other ways and that I've written things and op-eds and talked on podcasts and done what I've done is because at first it was painful, right? So just to sort of give a quick little synopsis of what exactly happened, just in case your listeners don't.
Yeah, let's do it. I was going to ask you to do that.
Yeah.
The why behind it.
Yeah, is that for the last 8 years in my stake, women have been on the stand in different capacities. So, for example, at all board conferences and stake conferences, the Relief Society president, Young Women's president, primary president would be sitting on the stand during the conferences. And they were invited to sit on the stand by the stake president and by the stake presidency. And then some wards in our stake had also the bishops had invited either the Relief Society president to be on the stand or a rotation. In my ward, for part of the time, it was a rotation between all three of the sister leaders being on the stand as a representative of the ward council, right? So just as a reminder, hey, women's voices are heard in ward council when we're making decisions and when we're talking about the ward and when we're making decisions out of love for this body of saints, women are represented at those meetings, right? It's just a good visual reminder. And it also became really important because at the time I was a Young Women's president and my daughters were in the program. And when I asked them about it, what did they think about it? Was it important? I mean, the answer was that they thought it was incredibly important, that they had been waiting for it, that they had noticed the disparity between how visible the young men are and how invisible the young women are in the ward. And they didn't understand it. They had not been asking me questions. It had been internal, but it had not just been one of the young women. It was sort of just everyone agreed. Oh yeah, we have wondered that. Why are there just men up there? How do I see myself at church? How can I see myself reflected back? Like the young men, they're not only participating in the sacrament meetings, but there's lots of representation for them to look up on the stand and see easily their future selves up there, right? And so since that moment, it was really important to me that we practice what had been offered to us from our stake presidency as a ward. And I always looked forward to going to stake conference and ward conference and seeing all of the women represented. And it just became sort of normal, right? That was definitely a part of our stake, and not just our stake, but 2 other stakes close by. And the stake presidents had met in a coordinating council and had talked to whoever the area authority was at the time. So it was done in a way of it's thoughtfully, prayerfully, because the men with the keys of the priesthood keys in this part of the vineyard felt that it was important. And so that's why it was instilled, that practice was instilled. And then, we just went about it for years and years. And it just became part of who we are as a stake. For instance, my daughter was 12 when they first started putting women on the stand. And now she's almost 19. And she doesn't remember she doesn't really remember women not being on the stand. It's so a part of how she thinks of the church, that there's this representation, right? That she can easily see herself reflected back. When she wants to find women, she can find them easily. It's not a thought like it was for my older daughter. So when a few months ago, the area president decided that I don't know his reasoning, and I don't want to suppose, because I don't think that that's fair for me to say why he did something. I know what he said to other people, but I've never spoken to him directly. But he didn't like the look of a crowded stand, thought there was too many people up there, and took everyone except for the bishopric and anyone participating in the meeting off the stand. So you can imagine that was like we were really shocked because it had been happening for so long, and it felt not great, and it was hard to get answers. And so that's why initially I started asking questions, and when I couldn't get good answers, I just thought, well, I have to be public about these questions. And I know that there's other people, it's not just really a Bay Area thing. This is something that would benefit so many saints all over, right? It's not, I don't think that, and it's not just, it's not been a practice that's just been in the Bay Area. Many other places have had the practice over the years. Some still do. That's the beginning of it for me anyway.
So it wasn't a problem ever to anyone, but it was a problem. Then it became a problem to somebody enough that they would stop that. To me, is mind blowing. And that's.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to understand because I don't think the system is set up well for an area president to even understand why we would do anything. Right. I don't know that I don't know. I don't want, like I said, I don't want to suppose, but there's, for example, no women at his level. So it's not like he's saying to a woman he can consult with that is, that might know something about it or might understand why it was important for women to be on the stand. So that's not set up well for him. And, for us, it's just felt like, well, this is something we're doing to come under Christ. We just wanted some answers as to why. And it's hard to get answers sometimes because it's not easy. It's not easy. There's not a lot of transparency that way.
And where did you start with your questioning? At what level?
So I asked my bishop, who is amazing and super collaborative, and wanted to also get answers and help me through it, and help not just me, but other people who were asking the same questions. And so, of course, then we took it up to the stake presidency, and the stake presidency did also try to get answers, and they all asked questions. And then I started saying, okay, well, then who do we write the letters to? And we thought, well, maybe it was the area president, because we didn't know at the time that it was the area president. We thought it might have just been our area 70 who made the decision. So it was sort of a process of trying to figure out. And the only reason we know that it was the area president is because when Peggy Fletcher Stack wrote the article, the church then told her, or the church spokesperson.
And who is she again? Explain who
she's
she
the
is.
writer she's the religion writer for the Salt Lake Tribune. And that's that's when it became public. That's when it sort of other people started becoming aware of what happened.
So was she the first one to say something about it in a public setting?
Yeah, she's the first person who wrote an article about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then where did you come in? And then, so did you get connected with her, or had you already started the Facebook or the Instagram group?
Nope. I had talked to Peggy when about the article, and I'm quoted in the article. When I went and talked to her, it was really because I couldn't figure out how else to get transparency on this. I couldn't figure out any other ways of getting answers. We had written letters to the area of 70, and then we'd written letters to Elder Brett. I had been collecting letters, so we just couldn't. So I felt like, well, it's I think that this is something that we just need to figure out, and transparency, asking for transparency. That was the motivation.
To this day, so we're 4 months out from that when this happened. Right?
Yeah, that came out Thanksgiving. So the article came out the week, I think the Friday after Thanksgiving or Saturday after Thanksgiving. And then, but I mean, it had been happening for probably 6 to 8 weeks before that. But that's when all that went down before that. It was in September or October. Yeah.
Has there been any transparency? Have you got any answers from anyone in a quote unquote position of authority?
No, I mean, I haven't gotten, I think that the answer was, what Peggy got was, hey, this is not from, because at the time it was like, oh, is this something that the 12 has said, or the first presidency? Is this coming from the brethren? We didn't know. So I think that the answer that we got was, no, this is the area president that made this call. So that's the official answer that we got. So that was something we knew then who to be trying to meet with and asking to and sending our letters. We knew where to keep sending those.
Well, you've created quite an awesome stir, I must say, and I don't even know how. I don't know how. I think I was listening to the At Last She Said It podcast. I assume are you familiar with those ladies?
Yeah, they're great.
I think I was on their page and happened to see you chime in, and I think that's how I got involved with it, because I've been listening to them for quite a while, and they're doing a similar thing where they love the church, they're in it, lifers, but they're saying, "Holy crap, women are getting screwed," and I've been in the church for almost 30 years, and I've never heard any women complain about the inequality, and it's just never been on my radar, probably because I'm a white man and things are set up for me. The world is. Women have been getting shaft for a long time, and it's really starting to piss me off. I'm a little late to the game. I get it, but I have 3 daughters.
No, I don't think you're late to the game. I mean, I think that once your eyes are open and then now you're taking action, that's amazing. It's not about late. I think it's just about understanding and then deciding to do something about it.
Or for those ladies who are listening and go, yeah, duh, dude, welcome to the game. But I can't unsee things, and yeah, my third daughter, my youngest daughter, who was on her, she's like Nephi.
Yeah.
She has the faith of Nephi and just goes and doesn't question anything. And she's on her mission. And we were talking one day, and she's like talking about how great things were. And she's like, "Oh, Dad, sexism is just ridiculous out here." And that really perked my eyes up, or perked my ears up. That she would say something like that. And my other 2 daughters are older than her, who have left, and they've things about the sexism and their experiences. And I just dismissed them because politically I didn't agree with them at the time. I
I
just
see.
dismissed them. They were saying the same things, but I dismissed them. So it took my little Nephi girl to say something for me to pay attention. And now I've went back to these other two and said, oh yeah, I'm so sorry. That is happening. That was happening. That is terrible. And I just dismissed you, and I dismissed all the other feminism stuff in my life that I saw.
I think what you're saying is really interesting because I think that culture of dismissal, of just sort of linking everything to a political choice, right? Or it must be politics. It's so easy to do in our world because that's the culture, the greater culture, not the church culture necessarily, but it's sort of the greater culture that we live in is so siloed. And it's so set up for us to be, it's binary. It's like you're in or you're out, I'm with you or I'm against you. And so it's so easy to say anything that person says, I just can't take seriously because I disagree with them politically. And unfortunately, that's infused into our into our church lives, right? And of course it does. Of course it does, because right, that's the water we're swimming in. So, and I think that what you're saying is also interesting because it's what I've been thinking about. How do I reach people who are dismissive of the message that I'm trying, and it's not just me. I mean, like you said, those amazing women who have been speaking out for years, and they're not the only ones. There's so many. I mean, the foundation that has been laid, it's been laid for years and years and years and years and years of like, how do we make this better? How do we take women seriously? And those voices, they are strong, but but it's hard and it's not just men who are dismissing those voices, the voices of people like me and people that have been doing this for much longer than I have. And I'm still figuring out how to do this and finding my voice in this. I'm really just new to the public. I mean, I consumed a lot of this stuff over the years, but I've not been public about it. And I'm sure a question that everyone asks when they kind of start to speak publicly. It's, well, how do I get my message to those who would easily dismiss me? Right? They would just call me a feminist and not care about what I'm saying. So so what you're saying is interesting, and I'd like to know what you think, how you think that. What should I do? What should we all be doing?
Well, like I say, we're talking, so that's a start.
Yeah.
And you created this group, which is a start. And I started chiming in, and I was frankly blown away by, the fact that you asked me to write some comments, and then the response that got. I'm still baffled by how many, probably 98% women chimed in on that.
Yeah, what you wrote was really important.
So, and I'm getting ready, there was a letter or like a templated letter sent to like stake presidencies and bishops, and I've got it, and I put my spin on it, and basically it was the letter I sent to you. I'm putting that in front of it and then sending that, but I'm hesitant to send it. Well, one, I should probably tell my wife so she doesn't get blindsided by someone in the ward or the stake saying, "Hey, your husband sent this." And I should at least let her know.
Probably a good idea.
But she's never complained. She with the roles and but and then her aunt, who's like her mother, has been, we've been married for 25 years, so she is a huge feminist, and I've been dismissing her, not to her face, but behind her back for years. I'm like, well, I remember doing a tour of Temple Square and Conference Center, and there's always statues and busts of men. And she asked the tour guide, well, where's the women? How come there's no women? And I was just like, oh, geez, Jan, really? Let it go. That was my mentality. Yeah. And I'm like, you're looking for inequality, so you're always going to find it because it's there. And that's what I have another letter going to her saying, wow, you're, when she was younger, she was introduced, she's one of 3 sisters, and she was introduced by her father oftentimes, this is our daughter, but we wanted a son.
Oh, ouch.
She's 82 now, 81, 82. And that's
Mhm.
still, I'm convinced that damage is still there, which is why
Oh,
she's inequality
yeah.
everywhere. But I just dismissed it. Never heard
Yeah.
it. It was just buzzing noise, and which is worse than actually being offensive to somebody. At least if you're offensive to somebody, you're actually trying and you're making some contact personally. But if you just have the ability to dismiss people, that's worse.
Yeah.
So talking about it, and I've shared it with a couple guys I know, but like I say, we're going to see what happens when I send this letter this week.
Yeah. Well, that letter is an interesting one because it specifically addresses two things that are A-okay to do, right? Handbook approved in the handbook. And so it's, I've been, not that I've been surprised by the reaction, that reaction, because it is scary to send a letter to your stake presidency and say, please, may we have these things that are handbook approved, right? Even though they're handbook approved, and even though this is done in many, many stakes all throughout the world. And yet every stake has its own culture. Right.
Yeah.
And so it depends on who is a part of that culture and what it is, how normalized asking questions is, and how normalized saying, hey, what about this thing, and have that collaborative spirit. And I'm not saying that there's just this one type of way that is the only good way to be. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that it just, sometimes we don't even know that we can be collaborative with our leaders because we just never tried it, right? Or we've never reached out to them and asked for that collaboration.
I'm hesitant because I fully expect negative response, but maybe that's not how the culture is at the church. Maybe it's not like an overt assault on women. It's just how things have been done. I don't think people are like me. I just didn't even think about it. I'm not trying to squash women.
Yeah.
But I probably have been involved in decisions or something that did. I'm not trying to, but it's all I've known for half my life.
It's all a lot of us have known, right? I mean, it's not just men women are also in that category. I'm sure I have said things and done things in the past that have squashed women and have just been dismissive of women who've said things that I just thought, what do they care? In a different part of my life. That is absolutely true. That there's, when we don't know, we act in a certain way, and it was never out of malice. I don't think that you did it that way. I don't think that I did it that way. And I don't think that anybody who is dismissive, I don't think it's not that there's just a sort of hatred or anything. I think that we love women in the church. And I think the church cares about women. I really do believe that. I just don't think that the culture has been clear about how we care for women. And it's been so long done a certain way that it feels wrong to do it a different way, but not because it's wrong, but because it's just different. We're not used to it, right? And so we just say, well, this is the way it is, and why change it? And so I think I get what you're saying. I think that is, I mean, it's I can understand why you'd be sort of fearful of getting negative response, for sure. Yeah. I do. Here's what I wonder, though, because when I thought about what was so wonderful about having women on the stand, of course, all the things I mentioned before, that was wonderful. It was wonderful to have women there and also have the women be able to get inspiration from the stand as they needed. There was many benefits. But when I think about what it really represented to me was this spirit of collaboration that exists in the stake that I live in. That it is easy to collaborate with our leadership. That there is a spirit of wanting to compromise and talk and understand and come to the table and let other people let everyone have their voice and let everyone understand what what the pitfalls might be or what the different concerns might be that are conflicting, and coming to a decision together. And that's a beautiful place to live in. That's like place of partnership. and collaboration, and not having to fear the reaction of my bishop or my stake president, because I understand that, not that they're my best friends or anything. I don't, for example, my bishop I know pretty well, but the stake presidency, I know them because they're my leaders, but they don't live in my ward. They live far away from me in some cases. And, but my interactions with them have been really collaborative. And that matters more, I think, than anything else, because it feels like partnership, and it's peaceable partnership. And we're not going to war with anybody, we're not trying to fight against each other. And obviously this is one issue, but there's many things that happen in a ward or stake that people have different ideas about. But being able to come to the table and let everyone's voices be heard is a really powerful, Christ-like way to help saints come to Zion and help saints come into Christ as we build Zion. And I think that when I think about why it's been so painful to lose the stand, it's more painful to know that collaboration that has existed here can get overridden by somebody who doesn't understand the needs of the people who live here. And I think that's been painful. That's been really hard.
Yeah, it's like a decision made in Washington for your local community by someone who has no clue what's going on.
Yeah. And then I think that's it. I think that's right. And so I'm a believer that you work in the community that you live in. And I've always done that. I've labored here. My family and my husband and I, we've done what we can do for our faith community because we love our community. We love the ward. We love the people who live in our ward. And we feel good about doing the service in the church and in our community. And we've always thought, well, it doesn't really, Salt Lake is Salt Lake, but it doesn't, your word is really what the church is, right? That's what really feels like church. And I think that's true, but this sort of threatened that idea, right? That it doesn't really matter what other people do in other places as long as we're doing what we can do here. So I think that made that idea feel less real, and that's been hard.
You're like the little kid that's been smacked down by your mommy or your dad for being naughty.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
It's I recognize that feeling.
Yeah,
it's like a sore spot for me, and just in my insecurities anyway. But to have someone just say, "Yeah, you no longer matter," whether that was their intention or not, that's how you felt. You don't matter anymore.
Yeah, or do you respect my voice? Do you respect the way that not just mine, but the collaboration that's been happening in our stake to make it a wonderful place to be a member of the church? Do you respect that? And I think that intellectually the area president would say, of course, we respect that. But maybe the system is not supporting him to really be able to respect that.
And it seems so easy to fix or just to undo and put it back the way it was, like it never was a problem.
Yeah, I wonder about that too. I don't know if to me, it seems like it should be easy to fix too. I don't understand the workings of how the hierarchy, how these things, I don't know that it is that easy to undo. Like, I don't know. It may not be as easy as we think it is. I don't know, because it's sort of hidden from us how all that stuff works, right? So
how the sausage is made.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm from Chicago, so I'd say like how the Vienna hot dog is made, but
Yeah. Have any of the male leadership pushed back on this? Like, I think one of my comments was like, hey, maybe wonder if these dudes just said, sorry, dude, ain't happening. What's the worst? What could happen?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think that they did push back in their own way. I think that they did try before they sort of, made it known that we had to get off the stand. I do think that they did do their best to push back or to ask the questions and to say, well, why are we, and to say, well, can we have some more answers? And I think that they did try. I know that one bishop for a while said, well, I'm not doing that. But then eventually he also, I don't know if it was him. I don't know exactly. I shouldn't even be talking about that because I don't know exactly how it happened. And it was only, I think 2 or 3 weeks where he just said, we're not doing that. But eventually the Relief Society president got off the stand in that word as well. So, but I don't know any more about how that happened.
Protest and revolt. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. And I don't know that protest really is a good model for change in this circumstance, right? Normally I'd say yes, but I don't know that maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the reason that I feel like it's so important that people like you tell your story is because it's not really about me. I mean, I could tell my story over and over again, and I do, right? I keep telling parts of my story and confirming it in different ways, but it's more than just my reaction to this or my story, and it affects more than just the people that live in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
It's all of you. So that's why the community that we've formed together online is on Instagram has been really sustaining for me, and I hope for those of you that are a member of the community and that are contributing and commenting and giving me so many. I mean, my thinking of this has evolved in such a beautiful way because of the ideas and the dialogue that we're seeing on from so many people who just understand this issue in so many different ways than I could have even understood myself.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're getting visions from so many perspectives, which is amazing.
Yeah.
You know,
And I hope, what's that?
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and I hope it's not just me. I mean, I hope that it's about of value to everyone else who's in the community too, because that's what
I haven't ever seen anything negative. But
Yeah.
Of course, there's a bazillion comments. I haven't gone through all that, but all I've seen is support.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel like an example. I was asked to be, I'm in the real estate community out here, and I was asked to be on this sexual harassment committee. Of course, it's all women. And I asked them, and it's similar to how I responded when I got involved in your group, was a sort of like, hey, is this really I asked these women in this group, is this the sexual harassment? Is that a huge epidemic type thing? Is it everywhere? And they were all almost like, duh, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Not on my radar because I don't get, something like that's never happened to me. So
Yeah.
it's outside of my experience. But yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that thought. It was really good, but
well, I think jump in when you remember your thought, because I'm sure you will. But what I was thinking when you were saying that is that a member of our community who generously spoke to me last week and gave me some new perspectives, she said something that I've been thinking about, which is privilege makes you blind. Of course it does. All of our privilege does, right? Because we just can't see what we don't experience easily. So it makes us blind. That is true for me in the privileges that I have to actively seek out, trying to see around my blind spots where my privilege exists. And that exists for anybody who experiences any sort of privilege. For example, I have a daughter who has Down syndrome, and before we had a child who was a part of the disabled community, I mean, I didn't know anything about it. I was very blind to the experience of family members who have children with disabilities or special needs, and blind to the experience of the members of that community. Now, of course, I'm an advocate and I care deeply, but I didn't choose to know that, right? That, thank goodness I know it, and thank goodness that blind spot was removed for me. I'm grateful for that every day. But it's harder to actively seek moving away what's in front of you, right? Because we can't even see it. We can't even see what's blocking us from until somebody like your daughter, right? All of a sudden she took away that, whatever that was blinding you, and all of a sudden you could see. And it took her doing that for you.
Yeah, we don't, unless something directly affects us, we tend to not get involved with it. Another
Yeah.
case in point, my oldest daughter is gay.
Mhm.
And of course, yeah, I've been on the periphery of the whole gay movement my whole life to some
Mhm.
extent. Never on my radar. Well, she came out to us pushing 3 years ago. So I know a lot about that world now
Yeah.
because I want to know what she's experiencing. And it's been fascinating. I almost feel like, because I used to be this right-wing conservative blowhard, and all I consumed was
Mm.
Fox News, talk radio for 20 years. It's all I consumed. So of course you can imagine what the output is when that's all you consume.
Wow.
And I was angry and frustrated all the time, and I wasn't making any progress or solving any problems. So in the last 5 years, since I started my own show, my podcast here, I've tried to seek out different opinions, different people, just to learn, just not to change, but just to understand and learn. And I feel like the Grinch at the end of the movie, when his heart gets big and he can't handle it because it's so big. He's just so happy and he says, I'm leaking. That's the only way I can explain how I feel. It just feels so much better. And I'm not trying to say this to put myself in any light or say I'm so amazing, but the change that I've experienced has been, it's like, wow, I like to meet new people that are different. I want to know what makes them tick and learn
Mhm.
about new things, because I used to think I had all the answers and I had to protect my family from the evil, whatever, the left, whatever the evil
Yeah.
was. And now I don't have to do that anymore.
That's so beautiful. I mean, honestly, that's beautiful. That's beautifully said, and it's beautifully done. To say, I realize that um, I have been putting out or consuming things that are making me blind, right?
Mm.
And look, it's not just the right that does it; it's the left too. It's so easy to demonize the other. It's just so
Othering.
easy. Othering, demonize, like all. It's just so. It's like you could just do it breathing. You don't even have to think, right? Because people will tell you what to think. They will tell you how you should do it and how you should think and what you should believe about other people. And I really hope, for the sake of humanity, honestly, I that we can start leaving those extremes wherever we find them and start doing what you have been in a quest to do, which is understand, even if you don't change your mind, you might love the person that you disagree with, right? Even if you disagree with everything they say, but somehow you understand their humanity in a different way. And love is like the only thing that's going to cure this.
Yes.
It really is. It's just like actually loving, and it's Christ-like love. It's the thing that we go to church for.
Yeah, we
That's
learn
what.
it every Sunday.
Yeah.
We're learning that in theory.
Yeah. And I do think we are learning it, but is the outside world unlearning us too much, right? Or like, and is it coming into our chapels when it shouldn't? I don't know. I mean, I think that it's something we actively have to be. I mean, I have to do it all the time. I have to say, nope, I'm going to give this person a chance. I don't like what they just said or what they just did, but I still have to believe that they're good people. And how am I going to find that, how am I going to find that connection? I bet you we have something in common. And guess what? We do. Every single one of us. I mean, we are more alike than we are different. One of the things that I did a few years ago, because I was feeling some different frustrations in church about my own spiritual journey and figuring out how to go forward and come under Christ in a way that where I felt like I was going to be able to expand my understanding. That I joined a interfaith women's circle, and it made me love the women who were, it was Jewish women, Protestant women, and Islamic women. And we've been meeting together for years and years and years, and we've learned so much from each other. And what we've learned most is how much we believe the same thing. I have learned more about my own faith from my Islamic sisters and my Jewish sisters than I had from my Mormon sisters in a long time, because it just was like expanding my view of of the gospel and what love is and what acceptance is and what really brings us. And that has just made my faith in my community even stronger, and my faith in Christ stronger, and quite honestly in the church. So I think it does us a world of good when we seek out those people who maybe have different things to teach us.
Well, there's a tendency to think that, well, if I engage the other side, whatever that side may be, and even go to talk to them, that somehow I'm caving on my values and giving into them, those people.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I have my dad. He's very, very conservative. Big surprise. He says, hell, I won't even talk to a damn Democrat. And I said, Dad, that you're part of the problem. Because they're not going to bite you. They're not going to, you don't have to sell them. You don't have to convince them or beat them. And it's hard. I mean, he's 82, 83 years old. That's the lifestyle of, literally his whole life of that kind of mentality. It's easy to love people that look and act and talk like you. That's easy. And I think that quote I gave you in that book yesterday that I was reading talked about that. So you love people that are just like you. So what? Big deal. That's easy.
Yeah. That's the restoration, right? But that's
Yeah. I thought I had it near me, but
Patrick Mason.
Yes. Last year, no, it wasn't last year. Whenever the Roe v. Wade thing was over, like it was so trivial, the Roe v. Wade was overturned. My cousin who lives in Berkeley, very liberal family, and I said, hey, will you come on and talk about why your reaction to this? And she couldn't for like weeks because she was so upset about it. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, yay, cool, abortion's banned or whatever. That's my mentality of like, you're killing a kid, period. I don't think it's wrong.
Yeah.
To have that discussion with her, not to change her mind, but just to learn. And I learned some things that were just, and as my mind changed, I'm a little softer on it for sure. Because the mentality was, oh, well, anyone who gets an abortion, they're just out whoring around and it's just a quick abortion. It's a birth control. They're just late, slutty women. They just want to sleep around. And I'm like, well, no, that's not the case at all. Yeah. I'm sure there is rare cases like that, but generally speaking, I had it all wrong. And we come to find out that the left's message, the real message, wasn't getting to the people on the right.
Yeah.
Their marketing was poor too. So both teams are not marketing themselves. They're just angry.
Yep.
And they want to destroy the other side. I'm like, well, no, maybe it's not all this. It's someone who's really, they don't just willy-nilly go through a drive-through, get an abortion. They're really thinking about it.
Yeah.
And the sad part was how many responses, sad but good, from her friends were like, that was really cool that you guys just got along. Like, yeah, because we came together loving each other, wanting to understand each other. And that's what we've forgotten how to do, I think.
And don't you wish because we know that this is something that we are in need of in the world, right? Especially, at least in this part of the world, at least in the United States, like this is something that we need more love and more understanding and more togetherness and more collaboration and more united service, all of it. And what I hope is that we can model that better at church, right? In some ways we do a better job than the outside world at that. I mean, having a ward that is made up of all different kinds of people on the political spectrum, or any, lots of differences and lots of different things. But I guess that depends on more where you live, right? If you're in Utah, maybe it's not as diverse because you're a few blocks, probably your ward's not very big. You're the boundaries, right? So maybe it's more people that are in the same socioeconomic and same belief system. But all that being said, we need to be modeling togetherness in a way that is that's going to help us really understand that it's necessary to come together. And I think that this collaboration that I'm talking about, that I feel just like it's so necessary, is that we're modeling this like healthy way of communicating and loving and understanding and being able to have transparent questions, that if we could model that better, I think we could do a better job at bringing the world into Christ, right? And bring ourselves into Christ, and remembering how Christ would talk to people who were not like him, and how he would purposely reach out to those that were very much different.
Yeah.
And the top of that list is women.
Yes. And that's where the disconnect is. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And I think I asked that question and someone chimed in. I don't know if you saw that comment. You probably see 1,000 of them, but I said, when did women start getting the shaft by men in the world? And she had mentioned, she's like, I've studied the Old Testament and the New Testament and all these. It's like, in the beginning, when Satan tempted Eve, it was a really good explanation. I'm going to slaughter it, but he's mad at her because she did the right thing.
Oh, interesting.
So, and I don't know if that's true, but it seems like women have just been getting hosed all over the place forever.
I mean, I think that you're right. So, I mean, I teach history, and I teach ancient civilization to seventh graders.
Yeah, so you can definitely speak to this.
And well, no, I mean, I am not an expert by any stretch of the imagination. But what is interesting is that so Western civilization in Greece, for example, if you're thinking of, the bed of democracy, and in Athens, women were treated sort of like you would expect women to be treated in society. But in Sparta, women had a lot more autonomy. But before that, before Mesopotamia, when we were hunter-gatherers, there was like equality. There's lots of evidence that men and women took, lots of different roles, and it wasn't gendered in the same way that it happened once we got into like civilization. So I don't know as far as biblically what that's an interesting, I'm sure that is a much more important answer than what I'm giving you. But I do think it's interesting that when we talk about civilization, I mean, I don't know when does the patriarchy start? Maybe it is biblical, maybe it's before, maybe it's Adam and Eve. I don't know, but there's some evidence, quite a bit of evidence, that was not the case in our hunter-gatherer societies.
So maybe we need a good power outage for a couple months so we become hunter-gatherers again.
I don't think that's going to work. I think that would be the exact opposite. Well, but maybe we just turned off all the social media.
And speaking of social media, I had this thought that, because I have this philosophy, in fact, I'm working on a book as well that talks about the fighting that's in the world. We're always fighting and nobody can seem to get along and decide that side. Is it really a big a problem as I'm thinking it is, or is it just because I'm involved in social media and I don't watch news anymore, but the social media, and we like fighting. We like the squabbles, the battles. They're exciting. They're sexy. Nobody's going to watch a show where two people are getting along. That's boring.
Yeah. I mean, I think that one of the things that we have to remember is that if we're not paying for the product, we are the product.
Yes.
Right.
I have heard that.
So yeah, of course, whatever sells, right? Whatever is going to draw an audience, I think that's exactly right. And I think that there's, it's hard for us to remember that because we don't all consume the same news like we used to when we were kids, right? We could all watch Dan Rather and
we had three options.
Yeah, exactly. So we all kind of, and and not only that we're watching the same news, but we were watching the same shows. We were waiting for Love Boat to come on, Fantasy Island, whatever it is.
There's a flashback.
Yes, but it's true. MASH to come on. We had the same references for a lot of pop culture, right? And that is just not true anymore because we can seek out whatever the algorithm is telling us we like. You know what I mean? Yes. So I do think that is part of the. I don't know. I mean, I'm no expert on this, but that is what it feels like to me anyway. That there's, especially if I look back on, my students from when I was first teaching, I don't want to tell you how many years ago, and just sort of how they learn differently because of being digital natives, but also what they know is incredible. And some of what it's like they know so much more than we did as kids, and they also know so much less in some ways.
Like they have the
So,
data, but
yeah.
don't have maybe the wisdom to know what the data really means, possibly.
Well, I mean, they do have a lot of wisdom, surprisingly. I mean, they get things that but they don't exactly know. And this is just my observation, but socially, there's a little bit of, they're not really as independent as we were when we were kids, right? They're not as socially aware. Sometimes that interpersonal stuff is harder on these kids. So yeah, I mean, that's just, like I said, observation, but it's for sure, we're just we have to be kind to ourselves, because we're the first generation of parenting digital natives and teaching digital natives, and also experiencing this world of just an incredible change of how. And so when I'm kind to myself, I can be kind to others, right? It's like, gosh, I don't know. I didn't know I'm just, when you start thinking like, oh my gosh, when did I get my first smartphone? It wasn't really all that long ago.
Yeah.
It was like 15 years ago or something like that, 14 years ago. And now it's hard to even remember life without it. But of course, most of my life I lived without a smartphone, So I don't know. Like, I think we need to be kind to ourselves so that we can be kind to others, and understand that we're all trying to like navigate this really difficult new world. And that includes the church, by the way. Like, that also includes the leadership of the church. They're also navigating a new world where there's so much more access to, all of the things. And we have not caught up well, I will say. Like, I don't think that we have been at the forefront of in some ways, I mean, maybe some things, yes, but it has not. It feels like it should be speeding along a little faster, and that we should be. I think I always expect us to be leaders in ways that we're not, or I wish that we were, right?
Well, you would think, yes, if God's leading this church, like we believe he is, that we would have a little more insight ahead of time.
Yeah.
You would think that. So that makes you wonder.
Some days it makes you wonder. And then I try to remember that God does lead this church, but it's always filtered through man. And I mean mankind.
Yeah, filtered through us.
Through us. And that we are imperfect instruments, every single one of us.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yes. And also we should be doing better. But I can give grace and also expect more, both at the same time.
And we are. I think we are riding the ship in ways. And again, it's a slow process, and we want things faster because we're in such an immediate culture.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Like I say, I expect a lot more negative responses to things and change than I'm seeing. I know that when my daughter came with her girlfriend to my other daughter's missionary homecoming, I was expecting it to be a crap show, and it was amazing. And I don't know why I'm expecting that, but that's what maybe people were awesome, whether it was fake or not. They were awesome.
No.
They were awesome to both of them. And it was a great experience.
Yeah. I think that's a good example of how we have gotten better as a church, even since, it's been a hard. Now, that being said, that road is, there's a lot of collateral damage on that road to more acceptance to our LGBTQ and queer, brothers and sisters. And I also have noticed a lot more willingness and to accept and love, and from the membership of the church. I think that is true. I think that for some, so my brother came out, 20 something years ago, and that would not have happened, right? If that's just the truth, right? There was so much pain associated with those of us that had family members that came out pre this sort of turning of the, and I'm grateful for it. And that I think that we should expect that and more things from the church, right? At least from the membership of the church. But I wish it hadn't come at such a high price.
Again, if we're following the commandment properly, love your neighbor, maybe we need to redefine what that means. And it's maybe different for everybody.
Yeah. Interesting.
And we get hung up on things that are not our job.
Yeah.
Even, and my wife was like, well, what about eternal families? And I'm like, it's not your job. It's not our job to worry about whether I think if he's the loving God like we believe he is, then she's not going to get ostracized to some weirdo place in the eternities. Doesn't make any sense. And it goes against everything we preach and talk about God and Jesus Christ and who they are, or who we think and believe they are. Makes no sense.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think that we can say that that's right. We can say that that doesn't make sense. And we can be faithful members of the church and say that, and say we need to be more Christ-like in so many more areas as a church, as individuals. We need to do better. We have to do better. Because if the overarching goal of the church, and I think it is, so this is how I understand it, is to bring God's children, our heavenly parents' children, unto Christ. That's all about love. That's what that's about. It's not about rules and judgment and traditions that don't make sense anymore. It's about love. And I think that we are aligned on that, like including, people that we might see as preventing change, right? I don't know how we get aligned on how we love better, though, because I think loving better has got to be the key. That's got to be it, right? I don't know. What do you think, Brian? That's got to be it.
Mic drop. I think we're done. In wrapping up, I think we've talked about most everything, but what final thoughts or words do you want to leave with people about this cause, the women on the stand?
Yeah. I guess I'd want to leave that if you are somebody who has questions about inclusion and why it's important to have more visibility for women, and you are in a place of wanting to come to the table with respectful dialogue, that you are welcome into our community. Come join us. We want you. We want you there, because the thing is that anybody who wants to engage in dialogue and ask questions, even if we don't agree, I think that's really valuable. I think it's really valuable because I'm going to learn, and hopefully the person who's commenting will also learn. So join us. I also think that, I guess one thing I want to say is that it's not about the stand. I think it's a elegant way of communicating the importance of the work that women do in the church, and the leadership that we provide, and the authority that we act in our callings and our stewardship. It's one way of doing it. I'm definitely would love a conversation about other ways to do it. I think there are other ways to do that. It's not about the stand. It's never been about the stand. It's about having a true seat at the table where we feel like we are in collaborative, united partnership.
The stand is a symbol, though, which is really important.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I know that there were some comments about, as a woman, I don't want to sit up there. I don't care about, it's not the power. It's not the power. This isn't about the power. It's being recognized for equal efforts.
I get not wanting to sit on the stand. I mean, I know a lot of bishops who would rather not sit on the stand either. I don't think it's ever been about the person who's doing it. The bishop's not doing it for glory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And it's always about for other people. That's what we do in the church. We serve for other people. And I believe that the bishop and the bishopric and the stake presidents and the visiting authorities and all the people that do sit on the stand, I don't think that they want to be there because they think they're, above everybody else. I don't think that the women who have sat on the stand and who do want to sit on the stand, it's not a belief in being over anybody or feeling super prideful about the things that we do. It's about serving, and it's about understanding that we serve together.
Yeah, it's not the praise of men, and anyone who actually campaigns to be bishop should be allowed to get it.
No,
I think is what they're saying.
if you want it, you shouldn't have it.
I've only seen one guy in my whole 29 years in the church who actually said something to the effect of like, it was fast and testimony meeting. And he's like, and when I become bishop one day, this is what I'm going to do.
Oh.
I was like, whoa. I don't think he's ever got the calling because probably he would abuse the power, quote unquote, but
yeah,
it was weird. Like, nobody wants that.
No, I mean, my husband was the branch president of a singles branch when we were in our late 20s. We would have been in the singles branch had we been single.
Yeah.
And we had little kids, and it was one of the best times of our life because we were serving together. And
Yeah.
it really is wonderful. He just ended his service in a bishopric a couple years ago, and it's always been a blessing. But it's not been a blessing because he's sitting on the stand. It's been a blessing because he was serving the people that we love in our community. And and as a family, we serve when we do that because we make a sacrifice. And when I've been Young Women's president, or now that I'm serving in the stake, it's the same thing. It's not, it's not about
the title.
I agree that it's not about the title. However, when you have that responsibility, you need help. Right. And one of the things that you need to know, you need to be able to see the people that you're serving. You need to be able to have inspiration, but also like people need to see you and understand that you're the person that they can go to. Right. I mean, it's a comfort thing too. And until the system changes fundamentally in the church, that's how we have it set up. The stand is there for a reason. And I think it's just as valuable for women in leadership to be on there as it is for men.
Mic drop, another mic drop, and hopefully we don't get cut off this time. Thank you, Amy. How can people reach you other than what's the best way to people reach you or get involved?
Yeah, so you can go to Women on the Stand on Instagram. If you're not on Instagram, you can email me at womenonthestand@gmail.com, and I can help you, get involved and tell you what we're doing, and any resources that we have on Instagram, we can share those with you. So yeah, reach out.
And men need to step up.
Yeah.
What made me need, I would hope, not that, and part of me is like, well, maybe my voice shouldn't be any louder than your voice.
No, I agree. We should have equal voice in this because it's not a woman's issue. This is a family issue. It's a partnership issue, right? So I think it's time for us to just be speaking together, right?
Weird.
It's just time. It's time for it, Brian. It's time. It is. My husband said something similar where he was like, even though he feels really strongly about this, look, he is the father of the daughters, right? Just like you are. He cares just as much about their spiritual lives as I do. This is not about women. This is about families. This is about making space for the women and the young women in the church. We need to. It's time to do that. So it's about partnership. And I know my husband said he just doesn't want to step on toes and doesn't want to. It's not, is it really his place? And I said, we just got to get over that. We just got to
make it your place. Make it our place.
His place is by my side.
Yeah.
Your wife's place is by your side. And our place as members of the church, as saints in Zion, it's side by side. Gender doesn't matter. It's the work. We just got to do it side by side.
Perfect.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much.
Brian, thank you. This has been such a wonderful conversation. I've learned from you. It's been lovely. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, I appreciate you reaching out and asking me to contribute and get involved. And now, like I say, there's witnesses, and I can't back out. So,
You're in it now.
yeah, I'm definitely in it. So
Thanks,
all right.
Brian. I appreciate you.
Thank you again for listening to The Parish the Thought Show. We know you have many podcast options and appreciate that you have chosen us. If you love what you hear, please give us a rating on whatever platform you find us. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. If you hate what you hear, only tell us. You're still here? Click on the next episode for more from The Parish the Thought Show.